Greetings, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to all of you. My name is Amit Kanade, and I welcome you all for this 1 hour webinar on building effective SRE mindset, raise the bar of IT excellence. We like to thank you all for joining from different geographies from Australia, Middle East, Europe, London, and US, as well as from India. We like to thank all our speakers as well for taking their time. And we also like to thank all of you to be part of this particular webinar for 1 hour. So just to start with, if you are all joined as a listen-only mode, and in case you have any kind of a questions during this webinar, you can type it in the question box. So thank you. Let's begin. So I welcome you all. My name is Amit Kanade, and I am a director strategic accounts for Quinn Consulting Services. So to start with, we have our speakers, Mr. Vipin Bharadwaj. He is a senior consultant with Quinn Consulting Services, and Mr. Rajit Krishnan, who is a co-founder and CEO of Cloud Control. Along with me, my name is Amit Kanade. Thank you. So just to start with about a Quinn journey for over the years, just to give a glimpse about who are we and what's our background is all about. So we have Quinn established in 1992 in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and at that particular time, the IT service management, ITL, IT infrastructure library, the product has been launched globally in 1993. And then we have globalizations of our Quint Academy. And in 2004, we have formed our Quint India office across 5 cities in India. In 2013, we have launched Quint Colors, which is more in terms of a human capital, as well as which has been rebranded as TAL Success. So we have refocused our portfolio in terms of on the digital transformation in 2015, 2016, and then in 2018 and 2019, we have taken over a company like Paphos in the domain of Quint technology, as well as Gaming Works, which is more on the tools part, which is on the IT service management, as well as DevOps and the Lean IT. In 2021, in fact, 2020, we have also taken over a company which is Anchorman, which is on the data and artificial intelligence. And in 2021, we have launched TAL Success globally, which is we have rebranded from Quinn Colors, which we have started in 2013. I will explain the details in my next steps. So just to give a little bit about our portfolio, Quint, we have our flagship products on the ITIL. That's where we have started. This is the 3 decades that we are working on the domain of ITIL, which is more on the training, workshop, consultancy, implementations, assessment. So as Prince2 Agile, Service Desk Institute, these are all the products which we have aligned ourselves towards Axelos and the people served. We also worked with APMG with the different products on the COVID, which is IT governance, information security, agile project management, service integration and management, agile, that's more on the sourcing, lean IT, change management, so on and so forth. In 6 to 7 years back, we have, as I have mentioned earlier, we have refocused our portfolio towards agile and agile development domain. And we are a global gold partner with Scaled Agile, which is more on the agile development methodologies, as well as we have positioned ourselves towards an agile implementation to Scrum Master, the product owner, as well as from the blockchain. As far as the PMI is concerned, we are an ATP accredited training partner, and we are delivering the courses as mentioned here in this particular slides. As well as more, we are also an ATO, which is an accredited training organizations for SRE with DevOps Institute, as well as for other DevOps products. And apart from that, we do have our focus on the technology aspects, which is through DevOps tools, specific related to a tools called Chef, Puppet, Ansible, Docker, Kubernetes, as well as more on the artificial intelligence, RPA, IoT, which is more on the RPA IoT, which is more on the digital transformation side. So if you can look at the entire portfolio, right from the each and every aspects of an organization, right from the IT governance, which is more on the strategy, and then the tactical, which is more on the the middle level management and then operations. So we cut across with each and every aspects of an organization through through the process as well as the technology as a product. The only missing part which we were having, it is more in terms of a human capital, and that's where we have started our journey in 2013, and then which has been rebranded as Tal Success. So Tal Success is basically a Quint Consulting Services brand, which is a global training company, and it provides a lot of it helps human capital to achieve a full talent potentials in the domain or through an assessments, through the training, which is on the domain of behavioral assessment, the emotional intelligence through Talent Smart EQ, the Pontiferac group, which is more in terms of a leadership assessment, as well as the coaching, the fierce conversations, the ROI, the return on investment, as well as the research and sales performance. So the Tal Success provides the leadership training by leading self, leading organizations, as well as leading team for through our global partners, and as well as for our existing customers. So this is a little bit about Quint and Tal Success. So just to understand about who are all our audience, from where they are attending, or from which domain they are attending, we just like to start this particular poll. So please please cast your vote so that it will be easy for us to vote. Thank you. We have few minutes. Thank you. Okay. So we have the poll, and we have 64% who are attending this particular webinar in the domain of IT services and support. 25% is the development, and 2% and 2% from the business, as well as 9% from the other domains. So thank you all for casting your vote. Thank you so much. So just to give an updates about our the first speaker, Mr. Vipin Bharadwaj. He is our senior consultant, Quint Consulting Services. Vipin is an experienced consultant and accredited trainer in the domain of IT service management, SRE, service integration and management, DevOps, and he has established his, he has implemented this particular best practices to a leading organizations, which is in the domain of insurance, telecom, the contact centers, manufacturing, automobile, and assisted a lot of organizations for designing and auditing the processes on this particular domain. So I welcome Vipin to take this particular webinar further and get the things going. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vipin, for joining.
Thanks, Amit. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Thank you.
Okay, so out of all my introductions, this was most recent. Okay, so I welcome everyone. It's a privilege here. And my first question would be, are you able to see my screen?
I can.
Okay, all right. So as we all know, today's webinar is all about SRE, how to push the excellence of operations to the next level. But before we go ahead and do that, there's a little bit introduction on what SRE is and how it came into the picture. So site reliability engineering is based on experience, which accepts that systems are complex and they will fail. So the effort in site reliability engineering is to create a balance between failures and reducing the impact of unpreventable failures. So this is the term which was coined by Google. In very simple terms, you can say this is the service management of Google. And this SRE is a discipline that incorporates the software engineering mindset into the IT operations to ensure that a lot of tasks are automated and you are investing more time in doing the right things, automating them, rather than working on manual activities such as password reset and checking the logs and getting the acknowledgement of the same kind of information or alerts, and also creating environments. So SRE doesn't work in isolation. There are other key concepts which are tied in to the SRE. For example, you might have heard about DevOps. It's an evolution. It's a philosophy that brings ITIL, Lean, Agile together and stresses on collaboration on software development and other parts of the support team and the infrastructure such as quality and security. And the focus is to reduce the lead time. The focus is to create faster, better, and cheaper services than before. Within the SRE, there's a word reliability. So both DevOps and SRE, they kind of agree on one thing, which is systems needs to operate in a way that not only you're able to develop them quickly, but they need to be highly reliable and sustainable. So it's just a coincidence that both these disciplines, they are independent, yet they look at various ways to enhance and automate the operation tasks. So DevOps and SRE are not competing with each other. They're not competing with each other, but they are close friends. They're designed to bring the organization silos and break the barriers to deliver a better software delivery. And then if you talk about reliability, it's about for how long a service, a component, or a configuration item can work without interruption. So it should not be confused with availability. Availability is how long a function or a service or a component or a configuration item can work whenever required. So reliability has a high impact on the customer satisfaction. And finally, we have ITSM. It's the implementation management of quality IT service that meets the needs of the business. Moving on. So there is a convergence to SRE and the DevOps practices. In very simple terms, through DevOps, you learn about the philosophy of professional collaboration between different teams and shared accountability. While SRE is a valuable practice that creates ultra scalable and highly reliable systems, which will help you to manage large systems through code, which is more scalable and sustainable for system admin. So this term was coined by Google, and SRE team will help to find a balance between releasing new features and making sure that they're reliable for the users. So in a nutshell, SRE deals with two concepts at a high end. One is standardization. So they look to standardize as much as possible, whether it's a tool, whether it's process. So as much as standardization, and the second part is the automation, because these are the two important components of SRE model. And site reliability engineers should always be looking ways to enhance and automate operational tasks. Okay, so these are the 5 practices of SRE and the principles of DevOps. One of them is to accept failures as normal. So traditionally, information technology has a problem management process, which deals with root cause analysis. Uh, SRE goes to another level and says, yeah, fine, we do root cause analysis as a lesson learned, but how can we distribute this learning to the team so that they can also learn the complex systems? Reduce the organization silos. So majority of the methodologies, they discourage silos, be it DevOps, be it SRE, be it ITIL. There is a shared ownership of the developers across the stack, and they have to work in collaboration. And it highly advocates the gradual change, the frequent changes and iteration, so that you're not employing a big bang release. And then measuring everything is important. So without measurement, you cannot justify your actions. Without measurement, you cannot validate something. And without justification, you cannot sell your business case or come to a conclusion. So SRE believes that operations is a software problem, and it has prescriptive ways of measuring availability. So rather than just rebooting something, we need to go further to find out how to measure the uptime, latency, outages, and the toil. So toil is a key area for us because every job, every work that we do has some element of toil, and we're going to discuss about that in the next slide. And finally, leverage tooling and automation. So eventually, if you want to focus on the efforts which are going to bring long-term value, not the short-term value, we have to leverage automation. And for automation, you have to understand the workflow. You have to optimize, reduce the bottlenecks, and finally automate. We can always say that there has to be a ROI justified before automation. So these are the 5 principles that work together. Moving on. I like the heading of the slide that says SRE implements DevOps, which means whatever you learn in DevOps is implemented through the site reliability engineering. So in SRE, we want to spend more time on long-term engineering project rather than doing the operations work, because the operation work may be interpreted as a manual activity or the word toil. Okay. So at the end of the day, we have to understand that we are moving away from traditional approach and we are going to the cloud approach. So SRE doesn't explicitly is there to satisfy the DevOps methods, but both of these methodologies or disciplines, they have very similar conclusions. So there are some comparisons between different terms. For example, what SRE is focused on, it's focused on the practices and matrices, while DevOps is more of a cultural and a mindset. The second information is a little bit informative, that SRE was coined by Ben Frenner, who was the Google's VP at the time. And then DevOps is a term coined by Patrick DeBoy, who was an IT consultant and agile practitioner. So both have similar goals to bridge the gap between development and operations, because business needs both. Business needs that you need to be able to implement or release new features, functionality, while at the same time they have to be stable and reliable. Okay. But if you look at the mindset of both these teams, development is more about releasing the software, deploying the software, creating enhancement, while operations is more about keeping the lights on out. Kind of providing stability to the environment. The focus area of SRE would be availability and reliability, which ensures that systems are running all the time. And we design the system not to fall, but to gradually decrease the performance. So even, let's say I'm trying to download something from a centralized server, and if the load is high, so rather than giving error to everyone, maybe the response time becomes slow, but still gradually systems are allowed to respond. While in DevOps, there is continuity, and they focus more on the speed and delivery of the product development. And both of them have wide set of roles and structures. For example, in DevOps, we could have QAs and developers and SREs, while in SREs, we have people from both the disciplines. So 50% of the work would be development work, and 50% of the work would be the support work. Now, this percentage has been given by the Google. This can change based on the organization that you have, the requirement that you have. Okay. Right. So we talked about toil in the previous section. So I read this term first when I was reading ITIL Create, Deliver, and Support Guidance. They coined the term toil, which is anything that is manual, which is mandate task, and something that can be automated, which you're not automating, is considered to be a toil. So toil is a kind of a work which is tied to run a production service, which is repetitive, tactical, automable, and it doesn't have any enduring value. And it increases as the service grows. For example, to onboard number of users or to reset the passwords. So not every task can be eliminated, or some of the activities are important, but we need to decide that we cannot let the toil increase because it can take up 100% of our work. So there is a term coined here, wisdom of production, which is mentioned in the presentation. The task can provide the wisdom of production that will design a better system and behavior. So I want to focus on this area. What is wisdom of production? So people in operations have an experience of supporting or running certain applications, tools, interfaces, and they know how the system actually behaves. While many organizations, like they're talking about developers, they develop software in an isolated environment, and it is not a replica of the production environment. So we can use the wisdom of production, that how the software should be actually designed, rather than using a whiteboard view of it, where services are isolated without knowing the ground reality. All the alerts, all the monitoring, how the firewall works, how the API works in the environment. So operations team has that wisdom, and they have a direct connection with the reality, so that you can make a better system design and behavior. So this term is just to ensure that we have time to make tomorrow better than today by automating this toil. So there are a lot of myths around toil, because if I get a new laptop and I configure it according to my requirements, or if I get a new phone with the default settings, I customize it, would you coin that as toil? The answer is no, because or giving a demo to the customers, is it it's manual? Yes, it is. But is it toil? The answer is no. So there are some characteristics of a toil. It is manual, repetitive, automatable, tactical. It has no enduring value, and it grows as the service grows. So, for example, repetitive means if you're performing a time for the first time and for the second, and you're doing it just one or two times, so I'll not call it as a toil. Toil is something that you do over and over again. Automable means it could accomplish the task as well as human, so it can be automated. Let's see what is the percentage of toil and what is not a toil. So there are some myths around toil that configuring a configuration item or a hard piece of hardware is a toil. That's not the right information. Okay. So something that you don't like to do, it's also not a toil. It's not the characteristics. We discussed and then admin activities, overhead tasks. Some of the activities we have to do. We cannot eliminate the toil 100%, but we have to ensure that we kind of reduce it. So there are some comparisons that how individual and organizations are impacted through the toil. It can lead to errors. It can lead to slow progresses. It can lead to burnout as well. If you're doing manual activities over and over again, it is going to have health problems due to overload while you should be doing something productive. It can be highly demotivating for people who want to do innovation, but kind of they want to change the job role, and even they can switch the organization. So at the end of the day, manual activity would result in mistakes, and they will consume time. So we have to understand that both of certain activities needs to be balance when it comes to the toil. And most important, it is unending. So it is, these manual activities are never ending. So if you don't reduce them, they are going to take 100% of your time over a period of time. Okay. So again, this is not a fixed percentage, but the percentage is coming from Google. They say 50% of our site reliability engineers, they monitor the services, they work on shifts, they are on call in the office hour, outside the office hours, and they maintain the performance and availability. At the same time, they write codes to automate the repetitive work, and they collaborate with the other teams to balance the business priority, and they collaborate in planning, designing, and development. Moving on, why the toil is capped at 50%? Because like it mentioned before, that there's no way you can eliminate all of it. But to limit it to 50% of the SRE time will ensure that it's alarm, it's a threshold for you. So if somebody is investing or doing more than 50%, that means that you need to take some action or automate this. So the question comes, why less toil is better? Why do we say that? Because at the end of the day, if you look at the activities that you do, it can fill 100% of everyone's time, because we do a lot of checks, verifications, validation, acknowledgement, and this gets heavier over a period of time. So improving this operational mindset will help you to improve the reliability and performance, and it will help you to get a free time so that you can focus on the important activities. We have a poll here. Which of this is an example of a toil?
Okay, I request you to please cast your vote. Okay, we have some time. Still have few seconds. People are responding. We have few seconds. Okay, so we are. So the result for poll 2 is, which of this is an example of toil? 17% is saying auto scaling of cloud infrastructure. 6% is saying self-service data queries. 15% saying automated password resets. And 62% is saying manual deployments. So this is an answer. Vipin, over to you.
Thanks, Amit. I'm glad that 62% shows the right answer, which is manual deployment, because toil is something that is manual. So auto scaling, self-service, automated thing are opposite of toil, because they're already being automated. Okay. Then moving on, SRE doesn't operate in isolation. Many times I get this question asked in various forums that we already have agile method. We already using ITSM, ITIL, we're using lean method. So where can SRE fit in? So this section is about it. So site reliability engineering is applicable to any organization who's into support. So it takes the operations to the next level by considering various factors. So every organization has some processes, some procedures, and SRE has a mindset to find out the toil and automate them to make things faster. So the most important area that we look at from a ITSM perspective is that how can SRE help ITSM? So we have various practices and processes in ITSM like change management, configuration management, release management, incident management, problem management. These are the areas which are going to contribute a lot in site reliability engineering. And both of these disciplines, they focus on continuous learning and continuous improvement. So whenever there is a ITIL process being designed or during transition, so site reliability engineering will look at how to do the testing over and over again. Can we automate it, or what kind of reliable system we can create, and what are the factors that will help us to push the continuous testing and delivery. So this might be the extension of specific practices that we use. So most of you would be aware about the predefined or the procedures and process to handle, let's say, a service request or a change. So what is a change model for an emergency change? What is a change model for a normal change? What is a predefined method to handle a major incident or a complex incident? So all these procedures are generally designed in an organization to handle various things. So what SRE does, they find out that the workforce is not here just to repair the assets, or to but to also find out the root cause of the failures and take proactive steps and automate these practices and procedures so that people don't have to consciously follow them. Then this is an extension of the previous slide. It says the compliance can help because you cannot have too many controls. Even if you have controls, you should automate them so that people don't have to consciously follow, to remove the human factor. And this will leave a trail, audit trail, which will not only bring confidence, but bring transparency. And you will agree that the ITSM rules and procedures are not ignored because they're automated, and there's an audit trail to track that. At the same time, we can also increase the deployment frequency by removing the time for human interactions. Okay, and there is another poll again for ITSM models. So which of these ITSM models can add more structure to the SRE activities?
Okay. People are giving their votes. We have a few seconds. I request you to please cast your vote so that we will be able to get the clarity. Okay, we have 5 seconds. Okay. So all three, which of these ITSM models can we add more value? So 54% within people are saying it's incident model, 21% is a project management model, the coding model is 10%, and organization model is like 15%.
So this question was specific to ITSM, which means a lot of project management work that you do is out of scope of this. So incident model would be the right answer because we have to understand that we have to automate certain. So there are workbenches. So tools like ServiceNow have workbenches where the major incident management comms can be sent, and there are other concepts to support the major incident management. So I would say incident model should be the right answer. Moving on, since we talked about ITIL 4, so this table talks about what are different ITIL management practices like availability management, capacity management, monitoring and event management, problem management, and how those activities can converge with SRE. For example, change management can help to enable changes to service component, at the same time roll back the changes if it's not successful, and you can automate those methods. Similarly, for monitoring and event management, it can improve the visibility of a system to judge or even predict the health and the diagnostic issues, which can be very good in terms of automation and uh, helping the reliability of those systems. So these have been categorized into high impacting and low impacting. So one of the other practice that can really impact is that organization change management, where SRE team has ownership to prepare the teams for rapid innovation. Rather than doing the repetitive work, they focus more on the innovation part. Okay. So moving on, the slide talks about the true leadership and who are the heroes in the. So what are the different activities required to be done? So I want to quote Thomas Edison. He said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. So for the SRE, it's the same. We don't want people to come at the last minute and do wonders. For example, SRE are not like paramedics for applications that they handle the sudden and unexpected events, but they also are wellness coaches, which would take proactive or preventative healthcare seriously, which means the proactive problem management and all the health checks should be taken as seriously as fixing. So SRE will develop those strategies and action plans to improve the overall wellness of the applications and prevent them from crashing. So there'll be regular monitoring for early detection of the issues, setting the right threshold that can formulate a plan for restoration of the application in case required. So traditionally, organizations have people who are heroes. They're good at fixing things, but they don't focus on proactive steps to minimize or eliminate the failures. By recognizing and rewarding these employees is a way, and it encourages a reactive culture. So we also have people who don't just repair asset, but they do the root cause analysis, and they only get rewards for proactive steps. So these are the employees who are reliability leaders, and these are the real heroes because they help others, even a machine or a device, to do the job better and to create better work. So it's defined in the Uptime Elements Dictionary that what is the true definition of reliability leaders, and how they can help even a gadget to do a better job just by being proactive and at the same time influencing others to do better. So people who take proactive action, they are the real heroes and they are the real reliability leaders. And finally, I'd like to spend some time on this. This slide talks about, again, the wisdom of production. And you would see most of these methodologies that I'm sharing in front of you, be it agile development or design thinking or integration, delivery, they're all going from left to right. Even the DevOps and ITSM, they're all going from left to right. The SRE is using wisdom of production to improve anything and everything that you can think of in a project management world or in a different world. So many people will disagree with the alignment, that because these frameworks have been implemented in a different way in your organization, which I will agree, that how the value streams can be different for different organizations. But at the same time, we need to understand that all these approaches, they flow left to right. And at the end of the day, we have to understand there's a concept called shift left, which was mentioned in DevOps, that all the ideas have to flow from right to left, taking the wisdom of production, giving it back to improve the SLAs, to improve the plans, to improve the designs, be more resilient, and build and secure more reliable infrastructure, deployment, automation and deployment, testing in production, and release, automated rollbacks, and finally, reduction of the toil. On that note, I would like to hand over to Rajit. He's going to take over from here. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Vipin. So, okay. Thanks, Vipin, for your time. So we have some questions associated with the slides which you have presented. In fact, we will take this in our Q&A sessions in later. So, okay, so we have Mr. Rajit Krishnan, who is our second speaker. He is a co-founder and a CEO of a cloud control solution, cloud-first company based in US. Rajit is over 3 decades of experience, rich experience in chief architect for a low-touch cloud SRE platforms with immense practical exposure on SRE as a service. And he is instrumental in getting engagements for his companies in terms of SRE as an best practices for their enterprise customers. So before Rajit, if you want, I want you to hand over. We like to run the poll. Just give 1 minute. Is it okay for you?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Amit.
Okay, so we have a poll. What do you think is the major benefit of SRE as a service? So please cast your vote. Thank you so much. We have a couple of seconds. Yeah, so we have the results. Out of this, developer productivity is saying 28%. Observability is saying 28%, compliance support is 16%, and low DevOps cost is 27%. So this is about the poll. What do you think about the major benefit of SRE as a service? Yeah, so Rajit, we like to take this particular thing further, and over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amit. Thanks for the introduction. So I'll start with the practical aspect of how to take SRE, the things that Vipin spoke about, right? So we want to take that and see how we can put a practical implementation aspects to it. So what I'm going to do is I'll take you through the various steps, and then we'll jump into the various tools that can be used to achieve it, right? So the basic theme of implementing SRE is, again, it's a cultural change, as Vipin was saying, and the idea is, in order to actually implement it, you need to automate end-to-end, right? Now, once you implement it end-to-end, you also need to make sure that there is self-healing and auto-scaling as part of the implementation of the pipeline. So it's basically you're connecting together different silos through automation. So let's look at the different aspects, right? So you need to, when it comes to running something in production, you need to plan. That includes putting the ideas together, putting the list of features that are going into each release, then actually coding it, creating the actual artifacts that makes a pure application. It could be developed by your team, or it could be vendor products, but the SRE terms applies to both. Now then you need to package it, then verify it, and then release, configure and run it, and then comes the monitoring aspect, right? So this is where the feedback comes from the runtime. So every aspect of this need to be measured, including the runtime as well as the pipeline. So when it comes to monitoring, the data collected need to be fed back to every aspect, every stakeholder, so that they can make adjustments in their steps. Now, once it is up and running, you need to have a process by which you operate, where you collect all this information, talk to people, make adjustments to your automation. And in order to do that, you need to have some sort of real-time communication mechanism. So let's move on to the individual steps. So you take the first few steps, which is the development aspect of it. We have planning, creating, and packaging, right? So when it comes to our current implementations that we have done at various enterprises, big and small, we use Git, right? Everyone wants to use Git. Git is very popular now. And there are different aspects of Git we can use. The first one is, when it comes to planning phase, it does provide, most of the Git implementations provide some sort of planning tool, which is very basic, but it is capable of achieving what you want to achieve. Now, if you want to get a bit more sophisticated, you have Mantis, Jira, Asana, and Monday. They can get into a bit more details, and it gives you a bit more sophisticated planning phase. Now moving on to creating. So when you're developing code, it could be the application code, or it could be the automation code. Both need some sort of IDE. I put a representative item here, which is VS Code. You could use other tools as well, but as long as it's integrated with your Git, you'll be capable of achieving what you want to do. Now, GitHub, GitLab is for source control. So whenever you make changes, you definitely want to commit the change, ideally to a Git system. Today's popular Git systems are GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Azure DevOps, and AWS Code Commit. All of them are equally capable. So you can leverage the source control aspect of it. Now, every source control system out there that are modern, they have a mechanism by which you can integrate your process with it through webhooks. You want to do that, and that webhook should trigger some sort of packaging. Now, here, in today's world, we have Maven, Ant, Gradle, NPM, and Docker. So this is something that would take the source or the automation scripts and package it so that it can be executed at runtime. Moving on, next comes verifying and release. So now when it comes to verify, you want to automate the verification process. SonarQube is very popular, but there are licensed products as well, like Aquasec, Snake, and Veracode. This is where you also need to integrate some sort of testing. Mostly, most of the folks prefer to do testing manually, but you can also integrate automated testing, primarily unit testing, as well as any functional automated testing as well. Now, releasing. When it comes to release, you want to gather a group of features, tickets, functions, or stories, and then club them together and make a release. So you want to leverage Git as much as you can. And Git has its own release mechanisms, meaning if you look at GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, they do have their own release mechanism by connecting and gathering the different tickets. But you can also use something like Mantis or Jira to achieve the same. Moving on, now comes configuring, right? Now, when you're deploying your workloads into the production, you definitely want to create something that is declarative, which means instead of actually configuring everything manually through a UI or through entering it on a prompt, you want to automate it. Now, one of the popular tools or platform that is becoming very popular is Kubernetes. It enables you to do declarative deployment models, and you can also leverage Ansible or Terraform to do the same. Depending upon how sophisticated your infrastructure is, you'll be able to choose one of these tools, or maybe a combination of all three of them. Now, once it is up and running, it's important that you monitor, and the monitoring aspect of it should be completely baked into the process. That means when you are deploying a Kubernetes workload or an Ansible workload or a Terraform infrastructure, you want to code the monitoring, and you want to engineer your automation scripts to enable monitoring from day one. That means when it's deployed, it's always collecting data, and it is putting it somewhere. Now, the popular tools there are, of course, Prometheus, which is open source. Alert Manager that comes with Prometheus is very capable. Grafana to visualize the content, And then when it comes to log collection, you want to use Fluentd, Elastic, and Kibana. Now, together, it basically gives you visibility into the runtime, both in the metrics side of it, in terms of collecting the resource utilization and things like that, and also collecting the logs. Now, when it comes to operating on a system that is deployed, right, you definitely want to use some sort of real-time communication mechanism like Slack, Teams, and integrate with Zapier's or similar product. Like, for example, when a monitor, the monitoring part triggers an alert through its alert manager, that alert manager should be able to trigger a communication or an alert through Slack or Teams. And then when it comes to offline, let's say you're not online and you want to make a phone call or a WhatsApp message, you can use Zapier to do that, or PagerDuty to do that. Now, when it comes to collaboration, right? So here we are trying to put together a bunch of people and process together along with systems. So here, the real-time communication is very important. So as I said, Slack and Teams are very popular in this space with Zapier integration. There are similar tools like Zapier also available to when people are offline, Zapier or similar tools can actually inform the person through either making a phone call or sending an SMS message or sending a WhatsApp message. Now, in order for this process to work, there are some enablers, right? Number one, because we are relying on Git and source control system, you need to have a good branching strategy. Work with the teams and figure out what is the best way, what is the best approach. And once you identify the branching strategy, stick with that and standardize it. Number two, coding and config standards. When it comes to the validation and verification, it's important to look at the code and make sure that everyone is writing code according to standards and following industry standard practices. So adopting the coding standards are very important. Now, when it comes to releasing, you always want to use a pull process or pull request process. Now here, this encourages peer review. Like when you want to make a change in the runtime deployment or in the configuration, you make the change in a Git repository, in a feature branch, and then let the peer review happen through the pull request process. Now, what happens there is, the requester who made the change would first create a pull request and send it over to peers to review it. And eventually after the peer review, you can also get some manager approvals as well. This is very important in the process to enable visibility, and also it also helps training others, and also it helps transparency. When it comes to observability, right? So observability is important. So as the other diagram showed you, right? It's basically important to see what is happening in the runtime and also what is happening in the pipeline. So you want to look at an observability tool that is capable of giving you visibility into the process as well as giving you visibility into the runtime, both in metrics as well as from logs. So this will help you fine tune the system over a period of time. Now, it is very important to also have the Slack and Teams integration. That is where, the system that are in the process that can communicate to the people through Slack and Teams. These integrations are very common nowadays. There are APIs and there are bots that you can use that will trigger that conversation. So when an alert happens, let's say when your website is slow, if you want somebody to look at that, of course, you want to create an incident ticket. At the same time, you want to start a conversation with the team so that the team can directly look at that, keep a trace of what they did to fix it. And then once the system is fixed, the alert manager should be able to automatically close the ticket. Now, I think if we are coming to a poll.
Yes. So I request you to please cast your vote. Thank you.
So at this point, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah. We have few seconds. I request all of you to please cast your vote so that we will be able to get some clarity. Thank you.
Thanks, Amit. Back to you.
So we have question and answer here. So basically, we have a question, Rajit, for you especially. Typically, what types of tools we are more focused on SRE and DevOps? And one more questions which is linked to that is what a real-time challenges that people or an organizations is facing while implementing the SRE tool. I'm talking more in terms the people are asking more on the ground reality, the ground level. So can you address this, please?
Yes. So the tools, we covered the tools part of it, right? So there are various tools out there. So the idea today was to kind of give you a practical aspect based on what we have done in the past. And what we have been successful with, right? So we'll be sharing the PDF with you. Of course, look at that, and then of course reach out to us if you have any questions. Now, the second part, right, which is what are the challenges, right? The challenges, what we have seen is, when it comes to actually, connecting all these tools together, we still have problems, right? For example, we talked about integrating, Git with various tools, with, for example, Jira to observability tools, to the deployment tools, to Slack or Teams. The integration seems to be the challenge. There are several different ways to do it, and no matter what, we have to, you have to spend the time to understand some sort of coding language. Like, for example, we use a lot of Python, and some use Bash and Python. So when it comes to integrating all these things together, that is a challenge. Now, this is in addition to the people challenge, that is, the changing the culture, right? So being transparent, sticking with this new process, and having them to contribute to this process, because everyone need to contribute and iterate to fix the problem. So I would say the first challenge is the integration, and number two, the people challenge, that is, making sure that once you come up with the process, you want to be able to people to contribute and iterate.
Okay. So thanks, Rajit. So we have another question from one of the attendees. Is Vipin, especially this is for you, I feel. Can SysOps, the system operations engineer, upskills as SRE, or it requires software development background for SRE engineer?
So as long as you are able to understand, so you don't really need to code, but if you know some best practices of coding and have some beginners level experience, then you can definitely incorporate SRE, because you have to look from a developer and a support mindset. So you still need to build your skills on the developer's front by understanding the design, how the code is designed, and how the systems are built, and then you can continue your SRE journey. You could be a 80% sysadmin plus 20% into development. That can be a good start for you.
Okay, so we still have a couple of minutes. I'll just take a couple of questions, which is like one which is related to SRE and ITIL4 best practices. How SRE is different from ITIL4 practice? Because Vipin, being you are coming from IT service management background and you have implemented, how do you feel, or how do you see it's a different, whether SRE is different from ITIL4 practices? I'm talking from an ITIL4, which is a current version.
So ITIL4 goes into the three particular domains like technical practices and service management practices and the general management practices. But SRE goes specific into the change, release, incident management, problem management, release management. So the focus of SRE is not the complete ITIL 4 practices. It complements by ensuring that there is automation, there is a lot of scripts being developed both internally and externally. So I would say ITIL 4 covers these practices, but SRE gives a high velocity kind of flavor to it by incorporating SRE practices and creating more resilience into the operations. So by incorporating concepts like chaos engineering and resilient operations, SRE can enhance that aspect of the ITIL 4.
Okay, we still, in fact, we are just running out of time. I'll just take one last one. There are a lot of questions. Maybe we will, if we don't, we'll get another 1 hour to answer those particular questions. But I just have last questions because that is also maybe a real time the challenges for everyone. How reliability and security are related with regards to IT ops in the real time? So do you throw some light, Vipin, here? How reliability and security are related with regards to IT operations?
See, reliability means systems are not failing. You are able to work. So availability and reliability goes in hand. And then we don't want to have security related incidents. So that's again the reliability. So it all comes down to the reliability, whether it's a security or downtime. So they both will roll up to the reliability of the service, which is very different to availability. Many organizations only track availability and not the reliability of the services. So that's the reason I could have like one outage for 8 hours, but I could have 20 outages of 10 minutes. In one case, availability is fantastic, but then my reliability or the trust on the service has gone. So definitely, it is just time where, product companies will always use reliability as their key KPI. So security and the reliability will be key measures, while many organizations still track latency and availability as their only measurement.
Okay, so we still have a lot of questions, but we are running out of time. So gentlemen, I like to thank all of you. Vipin, thanks for your time. Rajit, thank you so much for your time. I think you are based right now. You are in, I'm not sure you're in Middle East or in, you are in the US, but thanks very much. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks Vipin for your time. And thank you all our candidates who have joined from different territories and from the different organizations. Thank you for your time. There are a lot of questions which is there in I'm seeing in my chats and question box. We will definitely going to address it one by one by discussing with Mr. Rajit and with Mr. Vipin. So I like to thank all of you, all the speakers and all the team members of Quint who working with me for this fulfillment of this particular webinar. Thank you so much, guys, and wish you all the best. Thank you. And have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.